The dust on tail in the 4 never settled. It hung in the air like a red fog, making everything look like an old photograph. Ji-Yun stepped off the transport ship and immediately started coughing. Her mask helped, but not enough. Around her, the landing zone was nearly empty, just a few broken-down buildings and aliens who looked too tired to care about anything anymore. "Welcome to the end of the universe," Dejo said beside her. He was her mentor, a doctor who had been doing this work for 20 years. His hair was gray now, but his eyes were still kind. "It's not much, but it's home to 30,000 villains who have nowhere else to go." See, Ji-Yun had read about the villains. Before coming here, their home world had been destroyed 15 years ago. A big mining company had drilled too deep, cracked the planet's core, and killed billions. The company paid a small fine. The survivors got nothing. Now they lived on worlds like this one, forgotten by everyone. The villains looked like insects that stood on 2 legs. They had 4 arms, compound eyes that shimmered in different colors, and skin that looked like dark green armor. Most species found them ugly. Ji-Yun just saw people who needed help. The clinic was a simple metal building near the center of the refugee camp. Inside, the walls were covered with marks and scratches, alien writing that Ji-Yun couldn't read. The medical equipment was old, some of it broken. Dejo showed her around with an apologetic smile. "It's not the hospital you trained at," he said, "but we do good work here. We save lives that everyone else has given up on." For the first 3 weeks, Ji-Yun worked until she couldn't stand. She treated infections, set broken bones, and delivered babies. The villains were grateful but quiet. They had learned not to hope for too much. They had learned that the universe didn't care about them. Then she met Ritha. He came to the clinic carrying a small child in his forearms. The old villain was shaking, his compound eyes dim with fear. The child was burning with fever, his small body convulsing every few seconds. "Please," Ritha said in broken human language, "my grandson, he dies. Please." Ji-Yun took the child immediately. She ran every scan they had. The diagnosis came back quickly: blood fever. It was a simple disease, easy to cure with the right medicine. But when she checked their supplies, her heart sank. "We don't have it," Dejo said quietly. "The supply ship won't come for another month." By then he didn't need to finish. The child would be dead in a week without treatment. Ji-Yun checked the Galactic Medical Network. The nearest pharmacy was on a space station 2 days away. They had the medicine, but it cost 6,000 credits. That was more than the entire clinic's monthly budget. "Can we ask for donations?" Ji-Yun asked. Dejo shook his head. "We've tried. Nobody donates for villains. They're not popular, they're not cute, they're just forgotten." Ji-Yun looked at the child. His name was small and sick and dying. She thought about her own nephew back on Earth. She thought about her education fund, the money she had been saving for years to finish her medical degree. 6,000 credits, exactly what she had. She made the call before she could change her mind. The medicine arrived the next day. Ritha watched with his dim eyes as Ji-Yun injected his grandson. She stayed with them for 3 days, monitoring the child's progress. Slowly the fever broke, the convulsions stopped. On the 4th day, the child opened his eyes and asked for water. Ritho wept. Ji-Yun had never seen a villain cry before. The Tears were clear and thick, rolling down his armored face like drops of glass. Why, he asked her, why do you do this? We are nothing, we have nothing to give. Ji-Yuan smiled, though she felt exhausted. You don't need to give me anything. Your grandson deserves to live, that's enough, but you are human, Ritha said. Confused. Humans are traitors, humans are practical. Why would you waste your money on a villain child, a tutu? Our 2R because he matters, Ji-Yuan said simply, and humans don't forget. That, Ricard looked at her for a long moment, then he reached into a pouch at his side and pulled out a small carved stone. It was smooth and gray, symbols etched into its surface that glowed faintly blue. This is a memory stone, he said. In culture we give these when someone creates a debt we can never repay. It means I owe you everything. It means my family owes you everything forever. Ji-Yuan tried to refuse, but Ritha pressed it into her hand, his 4 hands wrapped around hers, warm despite his armored skin. Please, he said, let me give you this. It is all I have. She accepted it. Stone was heavier than it looked. 2 months later, Ji-Yuan's time on Talon IVTH ended. She had to return to Earth to figure out how to finish her education. Without the money she had spent, Dezhou threw her a small goodbye party. A few villains came, including Ritha and his grandson. The child was healthy now, running around the clinic with energy that made everyone smile. He gave Ji-Yuan a picture he had drawn. It showed a human and a villain holding hands under 2 sons. He wants to be a doctor like you, Rika translated. He wants to help people like you helped him. Ji-Yuan felt tears in her own eyes. She hugged the old villain, careful of his armored body. Thank you for letting me help. As her ship lifted off, Ji-Yuan watched Talon IVTH shrink below her. She had no idea what it really meant. She didn't know about the villain traditions of debt and honor. She just thought it was a nice gift from a grateful grandfather. On the ground, Ritha stood with his grandson, watching the human ship disappear into the sky. The child tugged at his arm. Will we ever see her again? The child asked in their own language. Rika touched the spot where the memory stone had been. Perhaps not, but we will never forget her, and if she ever needs us, no matter when, no matter where, we will come. That is what the memory stone means. The child nodded seriously. The small ones remember, he repeated, using the ancient phrase. Yes, Ritha said, the small ones remember, and one day we will repay. The human ship vanished into the stars, leaving behind a debt that would change the galaxy. Ji-Yuan didn't know it yet, but she had planted a seed of kindness that would grow into something vast and powerful, something that would save not just one life but billions, because humans remember every kindness they give, and the universe remembers every kindness it receives. Hun Wu hated the Corvin route. Every cargo captain in the sector hated it. The space between the Talmor system and New Sol Station was full of debris, fields, radiation pockets, and pirates. Lots of pirates. But it also cut 3 weeks off the normal shipping time, and time was money. Contact on scanners, Yuna said from the navigation station. She was his younger sister and the best navigator he had ever worked with. Looks like a ship in distress, sending out an automated beacon. Hun Wu checked the readings on his console. Can you identify the ship type? Yuna was quiet for a moment, then she said, it's Krill. Design Raider class. The bridge went Silent, their other two crew members, Minyu and Bara, both looked at Han Wu. With worry, everyone knew about the Krill. They were the most feared pirates. In this part of space, reptilian, violent and completely without mercy. They raided refugee ships, sold slaves, and killed anyone who got in their way. We should go around, Minyu said. It's probably a trap. He was probably right. The Krill were known for false distress calls, lure in a good ship, then take everything, including the ship itself. But Han Wu looked at the scanner data. Again, the ship's power was almost gone. Life support was failing. If it was a trap, it was a very expensive one. We're an LT Unk and GT, checking it out, he said. Brother, please think about this, Yuna said quietly. If they capture us, they won't, Han Wu said. He didn't feel as confident as he sounded. But if that ship really is dying and we leave them, what does that make us? They approached carefully, weapons ready. The Krill raider ship was in bad shape. One engine was completely gone. The hull had multiple breaches. Whatever had happened, it had happened fast and hard. I'm getting life signs, Bora reported. 23 Krill power failing across all systems. They're really dying in there. Han Wu made his decision. Prepare boarding equipment. We're going to get them out. Are you insane? Minyu asked. These are Krill. They'll kill us. Maybe, Han Wu said, or maybe they'll be too grateful to try. Either way, I'm not leaving them to die in the dark. They docked with the raider ship. Han Wu led the boarding team personally, wearing a full pressure suit and carrying a medical kit. What he found inside was worse than he expected. The Krill crew was in bad shape. Several were injured. All of them looked starved. They stared at the humans with yellow eyes full of suspicion and fear. At the center of the group stood a large female Krill, her scales dark red with age. She wore the markings of a captain. I am Thessa, she said in rough human language. You are here to take our ship? No, Han Wu said. We're here to help you. Thessa's eyes narrowed. Humans don't help Krill. Nobody helps Krill. Well, we're going to try something new, Han Wu said. He opened his medical kit. For a long moment, Thessa just stared at him. Then she barked orders in her own language. The Krill crew parted, revealing 3 badly injured warriors lying on the deck. Han Wu got to work immediately. It took 6 hours to stabilize everyone and transfer them to the eternal spring. The Krill were silent the entire time, watching the humans with wary eyes. They clearly expected betrayal at any moment. But Han Wu and his crew just worked, treating injuries, sharing food, and fixing what they could of the raider ship systems. Finally, when the work was done, Thessa approached Han Wu in the cargo bay. Her crew stood behind her, hands near their weapons. What do you want? She asked bluntly. What is the price for this help? No price, Han Wu said. There is always a price. Not this time. Thessa's tail lashed with agitation. This makes no sense. We are Krill. We raid human ships. We have probably attacked ships from your own planet. Why would you help us? Han Wu sat down on a cargo container and gestured for the two. Do the same, she did cautiously. Can I ask you a question? Han Wu said. Why do you raid refugee convoys? There's no honor in that, no profit either. Really, refugees have nothing. Question seemed to surprise Thessa. Her yellow eyes blinked slowly. You want to know why? What? Yes, I'm curious. Thessa was quiet for a long Time, when she spoke again, her voice was different, softer, sadder. 30 years ago, my people had a home world. We were not pirates then, we were traders like you. Then the plague came, a disease that killed half our population in 1 year. We begged the galactic community for help. They refused. They said krill were dangerous. They said we might spread the plague to other worlds, so they quarantined us. They left us to die. IP. She looked at her clawed hands. I was young then. I watched my family die. I watched my world collapse. When we finally broke quarantine, we had nothing, no trade partners, no allies, no future, so we became what everyone already thought we were: pirates. Monsters. But why refugees? Hun Wu asked gently. Because they can't fight back. Thessa said simply. Because we were angry, because it was easy. She looked up at him. You want me to say I feel guilt? I do every day. But guilt doesn't feed my crew. Guilt doesn't keep us alive. Hun Wu pulled out a data pad and wrote something on it. He handed it to Thessa. These are coordinates to a human settlement on the border. They're always looking for trade partners. They don't care about your past. They'll trade fairly with you, give you a chance to make an honest living. Thessa stared at the data pad like it might explode. Why would humans trade with krill? Because it's never too late to choose differently, Yuna said, stepping forward. She had been listening from nearby. You were abandoned when you needed help. That was wrong, but you don't have to keep being what they made you. Thessa looked between them. You are either very stupid or very brave. Probably both, Haiyan Wu admitted with a smile. They finished the repairs the next day. The raider ship would make it to the nearest station for proper maintenance. Before they departed, Thessa approached Hun Wu one last time. I don't understand humans, she said. This makes no sense. We are enemies. Maybe we don't have to be, Haiyan Wu said. Thessa reached into her belt and pulled out a small power cell. It was standard equipment, nothing special, but she held it like it was precious. This is from my ship's heart, she said. It's an LT Uncan GT. All I have to give you. It's an LT Uncan GT, not much. Haiyan Wu took it carefully. It's an LT Uncan GT. Enough, thank you. Thessa nodded once, then returned to her ship. As the raider pulled away, Minyu stood beside Haiyan Wu. That was the craziest thing we've ever done, Minyu said. Probably, Hun Wu agreed. She LT Unc GT. LL probably go right back to raiding. Maybe or maybe not. Yuna joined them, watching the raider ship disappear into the dark. Do you really think she'll change? I don't know, Haiyan Wu said, but I know. We gave her a choice. Sometimes that's all you can do. In the command center of her ship, Thessa sat in her captain's chair, looking at the coordinates the human had given her. Her first officer approached. Captain, are we setting course for the human settlement? Thessa was quiet for a long moment. Then she entered something into her ship's database. A marker appeared next to the identification codes for the Eternal Spring, protected, untouchable. Any krill captain who attacked that ship would answer to her personally. Not yet, she said, but soon. First spread the word. The ship Eternal Spring is under my protection. Any krill who harms them dies. Why, Captain? Thessa looked at the power cell in her hand, the first gift anyone had given her in 30 years. Because humans remember kindness, she said, and maybe it's time krill learned to do the same. The raider ship jumped to hyperspace, carrying a seed of chain that would bloom in ways no one could predict. Behind them, the eternal spring continued its route, unaware that they had just made an ally that would one day save billions of lives, because humans help even when it makes no sense. And the universe notices. The Galactic Council chamber was the most beautiful building had ever seen. Carved from a single massive crystal, it sparkled with light from 1,000 worlds. Ambassadors from 200 species sat in their designated seats, representing civilizations that had existed for millions of years, and they were all refusing to help humanity. The situation is clear, the Torahi ambassador said. His voice was calm, almost bored. The Ashkari Dominion is too powerful. If we intervene, we risk a war that could consume the entire galaxy. Humanity is regrettable collateral damage, but it's a price we must accept for galactic peace. And Minso stood at the speaker's podium, her hands gripping the edges so hard her knuckles turned white. She was only 30 years old, the youngest ambassador in human history. Her mother had told her stories about helping people on distant worlds. Now Minso understood that sometimes helping wasn't enough. Humanity has 47 colonies, she said, trying to keep her voice steady. 2 billion people. We've never started a war. We've never conquered anyone. We've spent the last 50 years helping anyone who asked. And now when we need help, you're abandoning us. We are not abandoning you, the Randolian ambassador said. Gently, we are making a difficult choice. If we fight the Dominion, millions of our own people will die. You must understand our position. I understand perfectly, Minso said bitterly. You're cowards. The chamber erupted in angry voices. The council chairman called for order, but Minso was already walking out. There was no point staying. Humanity would face extinction alone. In the strategy room of the human flagship, Admiral Jiyun looked at the tactical displays with tired eyes. He was an old friend of Hun Wu, the cargo captain who had retired 5 years ago. Jai Hun had learned a lot from that man about honor and doing the right thing. Now those lessons seem pointless. The Ashkari Dominion is sending their full fleet, his tactical officer reported. 5,000 warships. We have 97. When will they arrive? Jiyun asked. 4 days, maybe 5 if we're lucky. Jiyun nodded slowly. Start the evacuation plans. We'll hold them as long as we can. Maybe some of our colonies can escape, but even as he said it, he knew it was hopeless. You couldn't evacuate 2 billion people in 4 days. Most of them would die here. Humanity would become another forgotten species, wiped out by a stronger power. While the galaxy watched, then his communications officer gasped. Sir, we're receiving an incoming signal. It's I don't know what it is. Multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace. Ku. Hundreds of them. Ashkari, Jian asked, his heart sinking. Had they arrived early? No, sir, the ships are Velen. Jihan stared at the tactical display. 300 Velen warships appeared, their hulls marked with symbols he didn't recognize. They were smaller than human ships, but their technology was clearly advanced. Very advanced. A communication request came through. Jiyun accepted it, and a Velen face appeared on his screen. The alien's compound eyes shimmered with blue light. I am Rixen, speaker for the villain-free worlds. We are here to stand with humanity. Why? Jiyun asked. Too shocked to say anything else, Ren held up a small carved stone. Even through the video link, Jiyun could see it glowing faintly. 32 years ago, human doctor named Jiwon saved my life. She gave everything she had to buy. Medicine for a dying villain child. She treated us with dignity when the galaxy had forgotten us. My people have never forgotten that kindness. He looked directly at Jiyun, the small ones. Remember, Admiral, the small ones repay. Before Jiyun could respond, another alert sounded, more ships dropping out of hyperspace, hundreds more krill raiders. Ji-hyun felt ice in his stomach. This was it. The krill were taking advantage of humanity's weakness to finish them off. But then communication came through, and Jiyun saw a face he recognized from old security footage. Thassa, the notorious krill warlord who controlled 17 pirate clans. She looked older now, scarred from many battles, but her yellow eyes were steady. I am Thessa of the krill clans. We are here to fight for humanity. Your pirates, Jiyun said, unable to believe what he was hearing. We were the agreed until a human cargo captain asked me why I lived without honor. His name was Hyun Woo. He saved my life when he had every reason to let me die. He gave me coordinates to an honest trade route. He gave me a choice. She paused. Because of him, the krill clans trade instead of raid. We are still warriors, Admiral, but now we fight for something worth fighting for. More ships arrived. Taurian medical vessels, Darish mining ships hastily armed with weapons, Gora science ships, species that humanity had helped in small ways over the years, all arriving to repay debts that most humans didn't even remember creating. Mio rushed into the strategy room, her face flushed from running. What's happening? The sensors are going crazy. Ji-hyun pulled up the tactical display. The screen was filled with ship signatures. Over 2,000 allied vessels from dozens of species, none of them powerful individually, but together they formed an armada that matched the Ashkari Dominion in size. They came, Jiyun said quietly. They all came in the Ashkari Dominion command ship. Warleader Kask studied the reports with growing confusion. This made no sense. The subject species were uniting, the weak were standing together. Are these species have no alliance treaty? His intelligence officer said. They have no reason to fight together. Most of them have never even met before. What connects them? Cass pulled up the data files. Velen's krill tones, Darish Gore, dozens more. What did they have in common? Then he saw it in every file. There was a note about human contact, human aid, human intervention. Small actions spread across 30 years. Medical help, trade routes, rescue missions, cultural preservation. Nothing major, nothing that should have mattered. Humans, he said with disgust. They're all here because of humans. That's impossible, his officer said. Kask didn't have an answer. In Ashkari culture, loyalty came from strength. The strong commanded, the weak obeyed. This cooperation between weak species was illogical, irrational, stupid, but his tactical display showed 2,000 warships that proved it was real. On Earth, in a small apartment in New Seoul, an elderly woman named Jiwon watched the news broadcasts. She saw the fleets gathering. She saw the villain ships with their distinctive markings, and she saw a face she recognized even after 32 years. Rixen, the small sick child she had saved, now a grown villain commanding a fleet to save humanity. Her daughter Mio called from the flagship. Mom, did you know? Did you know they would come? Jiwon touched the memory stone on her shelf, the one Ritha had given her so long ago. "No," she said honestly, "I just helped. A sick child, I never expected anything. In return, they're risking everything." "For us," Mio said. "Why?" Ji-Yun smiled, tears in her eyes. "Because humans remember kindness, and apparently the universe does too." In orbit, the combined fleet prepared for battle. Ji-Yun opened a communication channel to all allied ships, to all commanders. "This is Admiral Ji-Hyun of the Human Defense Fleet. I don't have words adequate to thank you for what you're doing. You're risking your lives, your ships, your people for us. I promise you, humanity will never forget this. We will spend the rest of our existence repaying this debt." Rex's voice came back, speaking for all of them. "There is no debt, Admiral. We are simply remembering as humans taught us to do." Thessa added, "Besides, the Ashkari Dominion needs to learn something that the weak, when they stand together, are not weak at all." The Ashkari fleet arrived the next day. They expected an easy victory. Instead, they found a galaxy united by something they couldn't understand: kindness. The first battle became a shocking defeat for the Dominion, not because they were weak, but because they faced an enemy fighting for something more than territory or resources. They faced beings fighting to protect those who had protected them. As the Dominion ships retreated, Cass sent a message to his superiors. "We may have underestimated the humans, not their strength but their influence. They have weaponized gratitude." His superior didn't understand, but Cass did, as he watched 2,000 ships from species the Dominion had always considered insignificant defend humanity like family. Humans remembered every kindness, and now the galaxy was repaying, not because they had to, but because they wanted to. The war wasn't over, but for the first time, humanity had hope and an army of friends they never knew they had. Ti-Jun had been a soldier for 8 months. He was 21 years old, and he had already seen enough death to last a lifetime. The mining colony on Darash Prime wasn't important to anyone except the 12,000 Darash families who lived there. No strategic value, no rare resources, just homes and lives. But the Ashkari Dominion wanted to send a message, so they sent a battalion to wipe it out. Ti-Jun's unit had 32 soldiers. The Ashkari had 300. The math was simple and terrible. "We need to fall back," his sergeant said over the radio. They were pinned down in a destroyed factory, debris falling around them as Ashkari artillery pounded their position. "The civilians are evacuated. We did our job, let's go." But Ti-Jun looked through the smoke and saw a family huddled in a collapsed building. 3 civilians who had been left behind: an adult and 2 children. Their rock-like skin cracked from injuries. "There are people still here," Ti-Jun said. "We can't save everyone," the sergeant shouted. "Move out." The order was clear, but Ti-Jun thought about his mother's stories about helping people, even when it was hard, about doing the right thing even when it cost you everything. He had always thought those were just nice stories. Now he understood they were instructions. He ran toward the collapsed building. Tasjin, no. That was Sman, his childhood friend and the unit's combat medic, but she was running after him anyway because that's what Sman always did. They reached the Dash family just as Ashkari soldiers appeared. At the end of the street, Ti-Jun fired his weapon, buying time while Sman checked The civilians. The adult Dash was badly injured, unable to walk. The children were terrified. We need to carry them, Salman said, but that means we can't fight. Tae-jin knew what that meant. If they carried the civilians, they were dead, but if they left them, the family was dead. For a moment, he wondered if this was how his mother had felt on Talon of ETH, deciding to spend her education money on a dying alien child. Then something moved beside him, a villain soldier, her compound eyes glowing blue in the smoke. He recognized her from the briefings. Zara, a technical specialist assigned to their unit. I'll carry them, Velzara said. You fight, you'll be defenseless. Tijan said, your grandmother saved my grandfather 32 years ago. I will not let you die here. She said it simply, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. Now move, move. They ran through the burning colony, Teen and Salman providing cover while Velzara carried the Dash family on her forearms. Ashkari soldiers pursued them, their weapons tearing through buildings and streets. Tijan felt something hit his shoulder, burning pain that made him stumble. Salmon grabbed him, keeping him upright. Stay with me, she shouted. They reached the evacuation point just as the last transport was preparing to leave. But Ashkari fighters screamed overhead, their weapons charging to destroy the ship. They were going to die here, all of them. Then the sky exploded with fire. Krill raiders, 12 of them, dove from the clouds like avenging demons. Their ships were smaller than the Ashkari fighters, but they flew with reckless courage. They tore into the enemy formation, buying seconds that became minutes. The transport lifted off, the Dash family safe inside. Velzara collapsed next to Tijan. Exhausted, half the Krill fighters crashed, sacrificing themselves to protect people they had never met. Later on the medical ship, Salman bandaged Tijan's shoulder while he stared at nothing. Why did she do it? He asked quietly. Velzara. She could have run, she would have been safe. She told you why. Salman said her grandfather was saved by a human. She's repaying that debt, but I wasn't even born when that happened. It has nothing to do with me. Salmon sat beside him. It has everything to do with you. You're human, that's enough for them. She looked at her own hands, still shaking from adrenaline. Those Krill pilots, they died for us, for Dash civilians. Why, Massid? A teen pulled out his communication device. He had recorded a message from one of the Krill pilots before they made their final attack run. He played it now. I am Kathin, daughter of Thessa. My mother told me humans believe every life has worth. I want to live in that universe. If I must die to protect it, then I die gladly. I want to live in Esther. I want to live in Esther. They sat in silence, listening to the words of a dead Krill warrior who had sacrificed everything for an idea. Meanwhile, in the Galactic Council observation station, representatives from major species watched the war with growing unease. They had expected humanity to fall quickly. Instead, the war had raged for months, with the smaller species fighting with unexpected determination. This is illogical, the Tothi counselor said. The Krill have lost over half their fleet. The villains are exhausted. The Taurans, the Dash, the Goreth, all suffering massive casualties. Why do they continue? Humans cannot repay this debt. It's impossible. Randolian counselor pulled up statistics. According to our analysis, these species are sacrificing disproportionately. Humanity should be losing more ships, taking more casualties, but their allies keep throwing themselves into danger too. Protect human forces, it's like they value human lives more than their own. Another counselor said, puzzled, how did humanity create such loyalty? An old Goreth diplomat who had been silent until now finally spoke. They created it by giving 50 years of small kindnesses, medical aid during our genetic crisis, food shipments when tone crops failed, protecting dash miners from pirates, preserving villain culture when everyone else had given up. Humans helped everyone, expecting nothing. Now everyone is repaying, but the cost, the Torahi counselor insisted, the cost is too high, it makes no economic sense. Perhaps the Gorith said, but it makes perfect emotional sense. Humans treat kindness as sacred, and apparently we learned that from them. The Galactic Council faced a terrible choice. If they continued to stay neutral and humanity somehow survived, they would face a galaxy that had learned humans were better allies than the powerful species who had abandoned them. But if they intervened now, they admitted their earlier refusal had been wrong. Pride versus pragmatism, the Council debated for days. On the human flagship Minso received a message from Earth. Her mother was being evacuated to a bunker. The Eshkari were preparing to attack Earth itself. This was the end. Even with their allies, humanity couldn't stop the final assault. Mom Mio said over the video link, I'm sorry, we tried. Jew and old and tired smiled gently. You have nothing to apologize for. You gave them hope. You showed them what we value. That's enough. It's not enough. Mio broke down. They're dying for us. Velsara almost died protecting our soldiers. Kay then did the protecting our civilians. Thousands of villains, Krill Torians, all dead because they wanted to repay kindness we showed them. How is that fair? All it's not fair, Juan agreed. But fairness isn't the point. They're not dying for us, honey. They're dying for the idea that kindness matters, that memory matters, that debts of honor are real. You can't put a price on that. T. Jun, listening from the medical bay, felt something shift inside him. His survivor's guilt, the weight of knowing others had died protecting him, didn't disappear, but it changed, became something different, a responsibility. Salmon found him an hour later standing at the observation window. What are you thinking? She asked. I'm thinking we can't let their sacrifice be meaningless. T-Jun said, save me because her grandfather was saved by a human. Kay then died for an idea she learned from humans. If we survive this, we need to make sure their galaxy, the one they died to protect, actually exists. Galaxy where kindness matters, Salmon asked. Yes. Where people help each other, where debts are repaid, where nobody is forgotten. He looked at her. We need to be worthy of what they gave us. Across the fleet, similar conversations were happening. Human soldiers realizing the weight of what their allies had given them. The gift wasn't just military support, it was a vision of what the universe could be. Admiral Jiun sent a message to all human forces. We've spent this war trying not to let our allies die for us, but that's not what they want. They want us to survive, to continue being the species that helped everyone. So here's our new mission. Survive this war and then spend the rest of humanity's existence making sure we're worthy of what these beings gave us. The message spread through human Ranks morale didn't just improve, it transformed. They weren't fighting to avoid extinction anymore. They were fighting to protect a galaxy where kindness mattered. The Ashkari Dominion, monitoring human communications, completely misunderstood. They're getting desperate, Worrell reported. They know they're losing war. Leader, but they weren't losing. They were finding a reason to win that was stronger than mere survival. The final assault on Earth was coming. 1,000 Ashkari warships determined to end humanity once and for all. The Allied fleet prepared to defend Earth with everything they had, but across the galaxy on thousands of worlds, beings who had experienced human kindness began to move. The repayment was far from over. It was just beginning. The sensors showed 1,000 Ashkari warships approaching Earth. Admiral Jihan had 300 ships to defend humanity's home world. The math was still terrible. Even with their allies, all stations prepare for final defense, Ji-yoon ordered. His voice was calm, but everyone on the bridge knew what this meant. They would fight, they would lose, but they would make the Ashkari pay for every meter of space. Meal stood beside him, no longer just an ambassador. In the last days of humanity, titles didn't matter much. My mother is still on Earth, she said quietly. In New Seoul, so is my family, Ji-yoon said, and 2 billion others. We in LT, UNC and GT, LL protect them as long as we can. The Ashkari fleet began their approach. War leader casks in a final transmission. Humanity, your resistance ends today. Your allies cannot save you. Surrender now and we will allow evacuation of your civilians. Jian didn't believe that for a second. The Ashkari didn't take prisoners. They were offering false hope to make humans surrender without a fight. Tell the Ashkari, Ji-yoon said slowly, that humanity does not abandon those who stood with us. We fight together, we fall together, but we will never surrender. Beings who bled for us. Cass's response was simple. Then you all die together. The Ashkari fleet prepared to fire, but before they could, something happened that no tactical computer had predicted. Ships appeared. Hundreds of them, thousands, not military vessels, but civilian ships. From across the galaxy, cargo haulers, medical transport, science vessels, mining ships, personal craft, even tourist liners. They came from everywhere, flooding into Earth space in a chaotic, beautiful swarm. Sir, the communications officer shouted, we're being hailed by everyone. I've got over 5,000 different ships trying to contact us. Ji-yoon stared at the tactical display in disbelief. Who are they? What is unreader? To the answer came in fragments as ship after ship identified itself. A Randolian cargo captain whose daughter had been rescued by human explorers 20 years ago. A Gorath science team whose research had been funded by human universities. An entire colony of Belethian refugees that humans had resettled after their world was destroyed. A Taurian hospital ship coming to repay the medical supplies humans had donated during their plague. They weren't warriors. Most of their ships had no weapons at all, but they came anyway, positioning themselves between the Ashkari fleet and Earth. This is Captain Whisk of the merchant vessel Bright Horizon. 1. Transmission said, 30 years ago, a human trader gave my family food when we had nothing. I cannot fight, but I can stand between Earth and those who would harm it. Another voice. This is Dr. Sella. Humans saved my Research during the university fire on Goreth Prime. I cannot let them die in. To die more voices. Dozens, hundreds, thousands, each one. Telling a story of human kindness, small. Moments spread across decades, a rescue. Here a donation, there, a kind word when no one else cared, none of it. Significant in the moment, all of it. Remembered now on earth in her shelter. Jiwon watched the news broadcasts with tears streaming down her face. Screen showed space filled with ships. So many ships, all of them had come. Because humans had helped. Because humans had remembered that everyone mattered. Mom, Mio and LT Unk and GT's voice came through her communicator. Are you seeing this? Yes, Jiwon whispered. I'm seeing it. War Leader Kask stared at his tactical display with growing fury. Clear them out, they're civilians. They're not even armed, but his weapons officer hesitated. Sir, if we fire on civilian vessels, every species in the galaxy will turn against us. The Galactic Council will have no choice but to intervene. They're shielding our target, yes, sir, with their bodies. Kask had never encountered this tactic before. The Ashkari conquered through strength. They destroyed military forces, occupied worlds and forced surrender. But how do you fight an enemy protected by thousands of civilians from dozens of species, all willing to die to protect them? Then the final blow came. Galactic Council fleet appeared, massive and powerful. The counselors had finally made their decision, not out of justice or honor, but out of fear. If they let humanity fall while so many species defended them, those species would never trust the Council again. Better to intervene now and claim they had always intended to help. The Torahi counselors' voice came through on all channels. Ashkari Dominion, you are ordered to withdraw immediately. This conflict is over. Cass wanted to fight. His pride demanded it, but he was facing the combined fleets of the Galactic Council, plus 2,000 allied warships, plus 5,000 civilian vessels crewed by beings apparently willing to die for humans. The math had changed. Now it was impossible. All ships withdraw, he ordered bitterly. So will we, Ji-yoon said quietly, though the channel was already closed. The Ashkari fleet retreated. The war was over. Humanity had survived. The celebrations began immediately. On Earth, people poured into the streets, crying and laughing and hugging strangers. In orbit, ships from a 100 species docked with each other, crews exchanging stories and thanks. It was chaos, but beautiful chaos. Mio found herself surrounded by ambassadors from dozens of species, all wanting to talk to her. But she pushed through them. Looking for one person, she found Rixen on his flagship, the old villain looking exhausted but satisfied. Your mother asked me to come, he said simply, showing her the memory stone. So I came. And I brought everyone I could. You saved us, Mio said. No, Ren corrected gently. Your mother saved me decades ago. I simply repaid. This is more than repayment. You risked everything. Rixen's compound eyes glowed softly. When I was dying, your mother didn't calculate the cost. She didn't ask what I could give her. She just helped. Because I mattered. We learned that from humans, that every life matters, that kindness is never wasted. Today we simply remembered what you taught us. Across the fleet, similar conversations were happening. Thessa met with Ji-yoon, the old Krill warrior scarred from many battles. Your friend Hun Woo asked me Question once, Thessa said he asked why. I lived without honor, I couldn't answer. Then now I can, I live with honor. Because humans showed me what honor means, protecting the weak, keeping your word, repaying debts, fighting for something beyond yourself. Hunwoo would be proud. Ji-yoon said he had visited his old friend on Earth before the final battle. Hunwoo was retired now, running a small trading company, but he had cried when he heard the krill came to help. Will you tell him something for me? Thessa asked. Tell him the power cell he accepted from me all those years ago. It wasn't just a gift. In krill culture, accepting someone's offering means you believe they can be better. He believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. That changed everything. The Galactic Council tried to claim credit for the victory, but nobody believed them. Everyone knew the truth. Humanity had been saved by beings who remembered kindness. The weak had protected the weak, and in doing so they had become strong. 4 years later, the galaxy looked very different. The villain-free worlds had grown into a significant power, their technology advancing rapidly now that they had hope again. Rixen had retired, leaving leadership to younger villains, but he visited Earth once a year, always on the anniversary of the day Ji-yoon saved his life. Krill clans had transformed from pirates into one of the most respected security forces in the galaxy. Thessa still led them, but now they protected refugee convoys instead of raiding them. We remember what it feels like to be abandoned, she told anyone who asked. We won't let it happen to others. Species that had stood with humanity formed a new alliance, not based on power or resources, but on shared values. They called it the Accord of Memory. Its founding principle was simple: remember every kindness and repay it beyond belief. On Earth, in a memorial garden built to honor all those who had fought in the war, an elderly Ji-yoon sat on a bench. She was 91 now. Her hair white, her hands shaky, but her mind was still sharp. Rixen sat beside her, equally old, his compound eyes dimmer than they once were. Between them, on a pedestal, sat 2 memory stones. The one his grandfather had given Ji-yoon, and a new one given by humanity to all the species who had saved them. I never expected this, Ji-yoon said quietly. I just helped a sick child. One child, Rixen agreed, who grew up to lead a fleet, who saved billions because he remembered one human who cared. Your species taught the galaxy something we had forgotten. Ji-yoon, that small kindness is matter, that memory is power, that debts of gratitude can reshape civilizations. Young people from a dozen species walked through the garden. Around them, human children playing with Velen, Krill, Torian, Dash, and countless others. A generation growing up in a galaxy where cooperation was normal, where helping others was expected, where kindness was strength. We didn't teach you anything, Ji-yoon said. We just remembered that everyone deserves to be remembered. Perhaps, Rixen said, but you remembered first. You remembered when no one else did. You remembered me when I was just a dying villain child on a forgotten world. That made all the difference. A young human girl ran up to them holding a flower. She gave it to Ren with a shy smile, then ran away. The old villain held the flower carefully, his alien face somehow managing to convey joy. See, he said to Ji-yoon, already they learn, already they remember. Ji-yoon watched the children play, watched species that had once been strangers treating each other like family. The war had been terrible. Thousands had died, but they had died protecting something real, something valuable, a universe where kindness mattered. Your mother would be proud. Rixen said, Menio is doing wonderful work with the Accord. She learned from the best, Jiyuan said, from beings like you and Thessa, from everyone who came. When we needed help, you showed us that humanity's faith and kindness wasn't foolish. It was exactly right. I was another. We simply repaid what you gave us. Rixen insisted, you gave us more than we ever gave you. That's the point, isn't it? Rixen's eyes glowed with warmth. Kindness should always be repaid beyond belief. That's what makes it sacred. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the future grow around them. Future built on memory, on gratitude, on the simple idea that everyone matters. And kindness is never wasted because humans remember every kindness. And the universe